excuse me, old habits. The Pinal AMA's Groundwater Users Advisory Council. We are meeting in a virtual format as we have for the bulk of this year. Today is November 10th, 2020, and the time is now 12:02. I am David Snyder and chair of the GUAC, and I would like to invite those members of the council that are present to introduce themselves. Mr. Collins?
Yes, I am present, and I am the vice chair of the GUAC and chairman of PICWA.
Thank you. Ms. Guthrie.
Hi, this is Jackie Guthrie. Good to see everyone. Member of GUAC residing here in Casa Grande.
And I see that Pinal County Supervisor Steve Miller has joined us. Mr. Miller, would you introduce yourself?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? You can't hear me. Hang on.
Now we can.
Yeah.
Oh, now you can hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Steve Miller, Pinal County Supervisor for
Yes.
District 2. I have no idea which, either the phone is working or...
And congratulations.
Let's see what happens. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, great.
On behalf of the rest of the council, we congratulate you on your reelection to the office of Pinal County Supervisor for District 3.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. I'd now like to ask, we do have a quorum. As I have said informally, Councilmember Riggins had something come up at the last minute and he will not be able to join us today. So we do have a quorum, and I would like to invite Kyle Miller and DWR staff to introduce themselves. Mr. Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Kyle Miller with the AMA section at DWR.
This is Kennedy Shepard, Groundwater User Advisory Council Coordinator.
Melissa Sykes, Water Management Assistance Program Coordinator.
This is Natalie. Sorry.
Sorry, Natalie, talked over you.
Go ahead, Carol. Sorry.
Quite all right. Carol Ward, Deputy Assistant Director.
This is Natalie Nast. I am the AMA Director working on the management plans.
Okay. Thank you all from the department for your attendance today and your assistance. I would also like to invite anyone in the general public audience, if you would like to introduce yourself, if you would type your name and affiliation into the chat box. DWR staff will be monitoring that and add you to the attendance roster. I'd like also now to move to agenda item number 2, which is the webinar logistics. And as always, we rely on Ms. Kennedy Shepard to do the honors. Ms. Shepard?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So like I've said in previous meetings, we do ask that members of the public please remain muted. Obviously, members, you're more than welcome to stay unmuted since you'll be speaking for most of the meeting. This just helps us reduce audio feedback. Everything in the chat will be recorded, including this meeting, which will be posted probably sometime next week. And for members of the public, if you have any questions or comments as we go through this agenda, please feel free to put those questions in the chat, and we will get to those during the call to public. Also, during that time, if you wish to unmute yourself and address the public, that will be your time to do so. And I believe that is everything I have. Back to you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shepard. All right, that moves us to agenda item 3, which is the ADWR current activities update. And Kyle Miller, the AMA director for the department, now has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the council. I'd just like to start with discussing some staffing changes that we've recently had in the AMA section. On your screen now, you should see an updated org chart that Kennedy was instrumental in putting together, so shout out to her. We've been receiving some questions about who to contact for which programs, so I'm hopeful this can provide some clarity. It's going to be posted to our website along with the location of contact information for each person. So as you know, Einof Henningsen has left the Department of Water Resources to return to Israel. It was a pleasure to work with her and have the opportunity to learn from her in the time that we did have with her, and we're really sad to see her leave, but also happy that she has the opportunity to go home to be with her family. So I'll be taking on Einof's responsibilities as one of 2 new AMA directors, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you. Natalie Mast has also been promoted to AMA director, and she's going to continue to focus on the management plans as she begins writing up the 5th management plans here pretty quick. And we're hoping to have as smooth of a transition as possible, so please do reach out to me with any questions or concerns you have. We also have 1 new AMA manager and 1 new supervisor. So James Dekoff was promoted to the AMA data and planning manager position. James has been with the department for over 7 years and has specialized in data analysis and data management techniques that we think are really going to improve our section and grow our planning capabilities. We're really excited to see his skills in action as he settles into his role. Lori Kaysen was a program manager in the AMAs. She retired from the department after 30 years of state service. And in her place, Caitlin Parker was named AMA Program Supervisor. And Caitlin's been with DWR for about 2.5 years, serving most recently as the municipal planner. And she's been really instrumental in training new staff and improving the efficiency with which we work on our programs. I'm also happy to announce that we once again have an agricultural planner. So Tyler Fitzgerald is in that role, and he's been with us for a little over a year, previously worked on the annual reporting process and completed conveyances. And one thing about Tyler is that he's absolutely relentless in his efforts to learn more. And I couldn't think of a better person to work in our ag program. I'm sure you'll all be working with him shortly here. We've also created 2 new data specialist positions, bringing the grand total to 3. So Brad Niska joined the department in late September and is going to focus his efforts on the industrial program. Brad has experience in business and conservation, and we think he's going to prove invaluable as we move into a new reporting season here in a couple months. Madison Moreno is going to be working with Tyler in the agricultural program. She joined us as an intern back in 2019 and has now accepted a full-time position beginning when she completes her degree in December. Excited to have her join us as a full-time staff member. So I mentioned there's 3, that's 2. So Brad and Madison are joining Colette Pancini, who's focusing primarily on the municipal sector. She joined us in March just before COVID kind of changed everything for how we do business. But she's already proven to be one of our most productive team members and has been really key to getting our data sharing efforts off the ground. A lot of the dashboards that have been published on our website have been her responsibility. So these additional staff members are going to allow the AMA section to expand our planning activities while better supporting the development of the 5th management plans. And we're really excited about our growth in this section. On the administrative side of the AMAs, we've hired Andrea Chang to work on completing conveyances, and Nick Rendendo has taken over the annual reporting process. We're thrilled to have both of them. So I know it's a lot of changes, but we have great staff members, and we're really happy to be able to promote from within the department when we're able to, and to be able to grow our section despite some of the current economic difficulties that we're undergoing. So I can pause there for the council if they have any questions before I change gears a little bit.
Okay, thank you, Kyle. Are there members of the council that have questions for Kyle? Mr. Collins?
I have no questions for Kyle. Thank you.
Ms. Guthrie?
No, I do not have any questions. Thank you for that update, Kyle.
Mr. Miller?
No, I'm good. Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right.
Please proceed,
So I
Kyle.
will change gears a little bit here. The Governor's Water Augmentation, Innovation, and Conservation Council continues to meet virtually. And I just want to reiterate, in case anyone in the audience hasn't heard this before, the council is charged with a number of items, and most significantly, is identifying and recommending opportunities for water augmentation, innovation, and conservation for the state of Arizona. The council is also tasked with providing guidance to Director Brashatsky upon his request. And since the last UAC meeting, the council has participated in 2 meetings. The Arizona's tribal community met with the council to discuss water rights and settlements at a special meeting of the council on September 10th. And the council also held its regularly scheduled meeting on September 15th, in which Director Brashatsky discussed the Arizona reconsultation process. In addition to those council meetings, there are regular committee meetings. So those G8 committee meetings are where much of the council's work is accomplished, and those meetings are all open to the public. They include council and non-council members, and there's no formal membership, so I want to encourage anyone who's interested in contributing to please attend and participate. All of the GWAKE and GWAKE committee meetings are recorded, and those recordings are available on our website. So if you're interested in any of the meetings and are unable to attend for some reason, you can listen to them afterwards. Or if you are just now getting involved and would like to catch up, they're all there for you. The next council meeting is scheduled for December 1st at 10 a.m. And the next committee meeting will be the Desalination Committee, which will meet on January 12th at 10 a.m. There's also the possibility of another committee meeting to occur sometime in December. We don't have a date nailed down for that yet, but if we do, we'll definitely send out an email. ADWR has also participated in 2 Arizona Reconsultation Committee meetings, and we're calling those ARC meetings. The ARC meetings reconvene many of the same leaders that worked on the steering committee for the Colorado River DCP in Arizona. And the ARC has created a modeling and analysis work group, which met this morning at 10 a.m., as well as an Arizona strategy team. And moving forward, the ARC will begin preparing the state's vision of what Colorado River management should look like once the current set of rules expire in 2026. Its members represent Arizona's diverse water interests, including elected leaders, tribes, municipalities, agriculture, industry, and environmental groups. And that committee is undergoing a collaborative and transparent process and has implemented virtual participation in response to COVID-19. And then I will just end by letting you know that we're working diligently to finish compiling the 2019 statewide water use estimates, and we'll be glad to share those with you at our next meeting. And that concludes my current activities update.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Once again, questions or comments from members of the council? Supervisor Miller?
No questions. Thank you.
Ms. Guthrie?
I do not have any questions. Thank you, David.
Mr. Collins?
I have no questions for Mr. Miller, but I do appreciate the update.
As do I, and I'm sure everyone else on the meeting. So thank you. Item 4 is the Arizona Water Banking Authority. Virginia O'Connell, as she does every year, is here to present the preliminary plan of operations for the coming year, and in this case, the 2021 plan of operations. Ms. O'Connell, welcome back, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the council. I guess we can go to the next slide already. Okay, before I jump into the 2021 plan of operation, I'd like to give a brief update on where we are under the 2020 plan. So as you are aware, 2020 was the first year that the Lower Basin Drought Contingency Plan was effective with regard to the Colorado River operations. Based on the Reclamation's 2019 August 24-month study, it was determined that in 2020 we would operate under a Tier 0 condition. Under Tier 0, Arizona is required to contribute 192,000 acre-feet of water to Lake Mead. Because most of that water comes from the other excess pool from CAP, there was no water available to the bank for storage this year. However, halfway through the year in June, CAP informed the bank, as well as the Bureau of Reclamation and the CAGRD, that they had some unexpected water supplies available and that they would be going into the statutory firming pool that is utilized by those 3 organizations. So at that point in time, they made roughly 68,000 acre feet of water available to the pool. Out of that 68,000, the bank had roughly 50,000 acre feet, and the bank amended its plan of operation to include storage of that water in each of the 3 AMAs. Since then, there's been additional roughly 10,000 acre feet of water turned back. Oh, so let me take one little step back. That unexpected water supply was actually in Lake Pleasant, and it consisted of turnback water from 2019. Additionally, it included runoff from the Agua Fria, because if you recall, we did have a very wet spring that year. So CAP needed to move water out of Lake Pleasant to make room for water coming in from Lake Mead. So that's where that water came from. Then, since then, additional turnback water came available from CAP M&I subcontractors. So all in all, we're storing over 36,000 acre feet in the Phoenix AMA. That's pretty much at the Tonopah Desert Recharge Project. In the Pinal AMA, we're storing 12,000 acre feet. That utilizes all available funds in the Pinal AMA. And in the Tucson AMA, we're storing just under 12,000 acre feet. So we started the year thinking we were only going to develop credits, and we did do that. Long-term storage credits were over 27,000 acre feet of long-term storage credits. That's pretty much in the Phoenix and the Tucson AMA. And we've also developed intentionally created surplus firming credits. And just a reminder what those are, under DCP, the Gila River Indian community agreed to create intentionally created surplus water. That's part of the offset component of DCP, of the implementation plan for DCP. 50,000 acre feet of that ICS that's being created by the bank created by the community, will be purchased by the water bank for developing ICS firming credits. So because of a 10% loss factor, the 50,000 acre feet of ICS that's created turns into 45,000 acre feet of ICS credits. So under an agreement with the Gila River Indian community, we agreed to purchase the 50,000 they created for 45,000 acre feet. We can utilize that 45,000 acre feet of firming credits after the interim period, so after 2026. In the meantime, that water has to stay in Lake Mead as part of the offset program. Okay, so if there's any questions, I can take those now on 2020. Otherwise, I'll go to the 2021 plan.
Thank you, Ms. O'Connell. Let me ask members of the council. Ms. Guthrie?
No questions, David. Thank you.
Mr. Collins?
Yes, I do have a quick question. On your slide, you show the ISC firming credits as being 6,390 acre feet, but I thought you said 45.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So we're not purchasing those all at once. We're purchasing them each year as we have the monies available. So there's a schedule where the rate increases by 3% each year. I thank you for asking that question. I meant to actually note that. So in 2020, we've purchased 6,300 acre feet. In total now, we have just over 19,500 acre feet of ICS firming credits. Under DCP, we did our first purchase in 2019. In 2019, what was that? If 1 second here, I can tell you what in 2019, we purchased we accrued just over 13,000 acre feet of ICS firming credits. Adding the 6,390 this year brings us to just over 19,000 acre feet.
you, Virginia, for the clarification. I have no more questions.
Yep.
Mr. Miller.
Mr. Collins asked my question, so that's all I needed. Thank you very much. I don't have anything else. Thank you, David.
Okay, you're welcome, Steve. I did have a quick question, Virginia. You specified where the unexpected water supplies were being stored or banked in the Phoenix AMA. Where are you banking them in the Pinal AMA?
We are banking in all three GSFs in the Pinal AMA equally.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
I have no further questions, so let's move on to 2021.
Okay. Next slide, please. Oh, wait, we're there. Okay. Okay, so for 2021, we will again be in a tier 0 condition, having to contribute 192,000 acre feet. So again, we do not anticipate water being available to the bank. So we will be looking at continuing to achieve our firming goals through credit purchases, and again, purchasing more ICS firming credits from the Gila River Indian community. There's no interstate storage proposed for next year. Next slide, please. So I'm showing the water and facility rates. Even though we don't have any water for storage right now, these are the rates that we use when we determine how much we're paying when we're purchasing long-term storage credits. So for next year, the water delivery rate went up by $2 an acre foot from $2.11. All the other charges are the same, except for Tucson Water. There's a 3% increase in their water facility rates the storage rates each year. I do want to point out, even though there's no excess water available next year, the CAWCD board did create the statutory firming pool. In the event water does become available, at least the pool has been established, making that water available to the bank, as well as the Bureau and the CAGRD. Next slide, please. So this shows the monies available for the 2021 plan of operation. As you know, the withdrawal fees that are collected in the Pinal AMA will not be available to the bank through the interim period, so through 2026. They are instead being used by DWR to help fund the groundwater infrastructure and irrigation efficiency projects in the Pinal AMA. So we do have withdrawal fees collected in the Phoenix and the Tucson AMA. And you'll see that these revenue amounts are actually on the low side, and that's because they take into consideration the $1.2 million that's been transferred from the banking fund and authorized for use by the Department of Water Resources. So because in past years, the monies were taken proportionally from all three funds, but we don't have the Pinal money, so it's now being taken only from the Phoenix and the Tucson withdrawal fee funds. So in the Phoenix AMA, the monies will all be utilized to purchase ICS firming credits from the Gila River Indian community. And again, that amount is much lower because, again, we don't have as many withdrawal fees available to us. The rate for next year, as I mentioned, it goes up 3% each year. So next year's rate will be $254.40. In the Tucson AMA, we're looking to use that money to purchase long-term storage credits. And then on the water storage tax, these are monies held by CAWCD. However, they have reserved $4 million in the Phoenix AMA and $6 million in the Tucson AMA for the bank to purchase long-term storage credits. Water storage is always the priority. So CAWCD does have additional funds available in Phoenix. If water does become available in the Tucson AMA, the $6 million pretty much covers what's available, but If we need to, some of that will switch to water storage as opposed to long-term storage credit purchases. So the plan for next year will be just over 10.8 million, and we hope to accrue over 45,000 acre feet of credits. Next slide, please. So what does that mean with regard to our firming goals and obligations? In the Phoenix AMA, we will have met the M&I firming goal. That's a firming goal that was established when the bank, shortly after the bank was established. In the Pinal AMA, we're at 97%. And in the Tucson AMA, we're still behind at 62%. But if we add the withdrawal fees, the 107,000 acre feet of withdrawal fees, credits that were accrued in the Tucson AMA, then we'll bring that goal up to 73%. On River remains the same at 96%. And for the Gila River Indian community, we'll be at 49%. Now, those include just credits that are dedicated specifically for firming the GRIC, and they include 105,000 acre feet roughly of long-term storage credits that were accrued on reservation. It includes 44,000 acre feet of what we called firming credits, which were basically an offset of the full water delivery costs to the community. And then it includes roughly 22,000 acre feet of ICS firming credits. We have an obligation, to meet all firming for the GRIC, and the Indian Firming Study Committee back in 2006 determined that it would take roughly 350,000 acre feet of credits to firm the GRIC. That is just an estimate. We look at modeling from time to time, but if we need to, we have withdrawal fees in the Phoenix and the Pinal AMA to also meet that goal. Additionally, the bank has an obligation to firm future settlements. The estimated amount to firm those are 200,000 acre feet. And again, we would have the withdrawal fees available from Phoenix and Pinal to likely meet those. The withdrawal fees collected in the Tucson AMA are likely to be used to meet the M&I firming goals in that AMA. So with that, I will take any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Let me begin with Mr. Collins.
I have no questions of Virginia. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Miller.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to do a sidebar here and announce that I was just informed that Councilmember Guthrie had a family emergency and was forced to leave the meeting, so she's no longer participating. I, however, do have a question for you, Virginia. I saw that the August report from the Bureau indicates that the percentage likelihood of moving into tier 1 shortages is gaining by north of 50% for the year 2022. And if so, what would you say will be the impact on the water bank?
Is it 2020? I thought it was 2023, but
Okay.
In any case, so the first shortage would be an IA shortage, which would mean we would have a firming obligation to the community. And if White Mountain Apache settlement becomes enforceable, we would also have an obligation to firm the leases that are under that settlement. We are working on our recovery plan, but we do have an agreement in place with the community that identifies several methods that we can use to firm the community. Also, in that agreement, it says if there's a shortage 3 years out, a potential shortage, that we would meet with them and start to work on a plan for recovery. So that looks like something that we're going to be doing. And if the trajectory remains the same each year that we get closer, there's some additional steps that we need to take. So that by the time we do get to the shortage year, we have everything in place and we know how we're going to meet our firming obligation to the community. We're looking at setting up similar agreements with the White Mountain Apache lessees. So.
Okay. Thank you very much, and I do stand corrected.
Chairman Miller, or Snyder. Sorry about that.
Yes, Mr.
I just wanted to reiterate that at our PICWA presentation today, this morning from the CAP representative, they also indicated that there would be a 40 to 50% chance of a Tier 1 in 2022 and 2023.
Okay.
We're prepared. Either way.
Good. Unfortunately, I understand it's just going to be 10 years of dry, sadly. Okay, thank you for.
Could I just add one more item? Is that we will be putting out the full draft plan for public comment. So we're happy to take any comments or questions that anybody has when we do put out that plan. So thank you.
Okay. I don't want to cut you off any inadvertently. Oh, she's muted herself, so that must be it. Okay. Thank you, Ms. O'Connell. And normally I'd say have a safe journey back to Phoenix, but you're already there. Okay.
Yeah, but I'll miss the Mexican food still the same.
Okay. Awesome. We're now at agenda item 5, which is the water management updates and the 2021 withdrawal fee updates. As members of the council are aware, we are in receipt of a notification from Director Bushatsky as to not only his decision with regard to the withdrawal fee recommendations, but also the awards under the WMAP program. So with that, let me turn it over to Kyle Miller. Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At the last UAC meeting, ANOV asked for your recommendation for the 2021 withdrawal fee amounts. And at that time, the council unanimously recommended keeping the total withdrawal fees the same level that they're scheduled to be for 2020, with some modifications. So the GUAC recommended increasing the Water Management Assistance Program fee to $1 an acre foot, up from 65 cents an acre foot. And it was also recommended that the Irrigation Efficiency Fund decrease from $2.35 an acre foot to $2 an acre foot. The director thanks you for your recommendations, and he takes your input very seriously and values your opinions. However, he's not in favor of reducing the withdrawal fee levied for groundwater and irrigation efficiency projects in the Pinal AMA at this time because of the needs for funding to drill and rehabilitate wells and construct related infrastructure as part of the Arizona plan for the implementation of the Lower Basin DCP. So as a result, the director has decided to keep the withdrawal fees the same as they'll be for the 2020 annual reporting year, and that is shown on your screen here, with $2.35 going to the Pinal Irrigation and Efficiency Fund and 65 cents going to your Water Management Assistance Program Fund. So next, I'll provide a brief update on the Pinal AMA's WMAP Fund. We have a current fund balance of $169,153. We also have $90,000 of encumbered funds, leaving $79,153 in available funds. And the projects currently being funded through your WMAP are shown on the bottom slide here. As you're all aware, the legislature passed and the governor signed into law Senate Bill 1227 last year. And part of that legislation appropriated $2 million in funding for grants to support water conservation projects and was divided among the 5 AMAs on a per capita basis. The process to approve grants for the water conservation projects was similar to the process that you currently utilize for monies associated with the WMAP. Those project proposals were presented to the GUACs for considerations, and the GUACs provided their recommendations for project funding to the director, who ultimately made the final decision regarding the expenditure of funds. I just want to take a second to thank you for the time and energy you all put into those recommendations and acknowledge the critical role you played in moving that program forward. It was great to work with you and on moving those forward. So these $2 million are going to be tracked separately from the rest of your WMAP fund, and that's in order to allow the Governor's Water Augmentation, Innovation, and Conservation Council to report on the impacts and effectiveness of the selected projects as required by Executive Order 2019-02. As a result of that legislation, the Pinal AMA was allocated $150,000, and the Pinal AMA received five applications, and the projects that were selected to receive funding are shown here on your screen. So the 3 selected projects were funded a total amount of $150,000, and each project was asked to provide estimates for the annual impact of their project, and when taken in sum, will conserve an estimated 625.8 acre-feet per year, in addition to educating an estimated 200 to 250 students a year in the Pinal AMA. And we're currently in the process of writing each grant recipient's contract and are looking forward to sharing more news with you as each of these projects progress. Does the council have any questions?
Let me invite Mr. Collins. Questions?
Yes, Kyle, I have no questions, but I would like you, on my behalf, to thank the director for the letters he did send out summarizing what you just reiterated. It was most appreciated.
Mr. Miller.
Yeah, I'll echo that same statement as far as I appreciate seeing those letters. I remember seeing the email with these amounts in it, and it's good to see these all look like very solid projects, and thank you for those considerations.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. I will do have a question for you, Kyle. And before I ask the question, I want to echo the sentiments of my fellow council members. We appreciate the feedback from the director, and all of the projects that came before the council were well thought out and good, solid projects. If my memory serves me correctly, and this is the question, all 3 of these awards, in fact, were less than they had asked for in total. So all 3 were scaled back from their original request. Is that accurate?
Except for Arizona Project Wet, that is accurate.
They were fully funded then. Okay. Excellent.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I, for one, look forward to next year's submittals, and it's an excellent way to help move projects forward in the Pinal AMA, where we've got quite a few needs. Okay. So, is there anything else that you have to report under this item, Mr. Miller?
No, Mr. Chair, that's it.
Okay, thank you. We'll then move to agenda item 6, which is a report from Terry Sue Rossi of the Arizona Water Company. I was fortunate to be aware of the water resource management program that is being developed between the city and of Casa Grande and the Arizona Water Company. And last Monday night, Terry Sue made a presentation along with Fred Schneider to the Casa Grande City Council about their joint demand management program, which is an element within that larger plan. And I've invited Terry Sue to brief the council on what I think is a groundbreaking or program, at least for entities in Pinal County, let alone in the Pinal AMA. So with that, Ms. Rossi?
Thank you, David. It's a pleasure to be here. And yes, I am the Water Resource Manager for Arizona Water Company. And on, I'm not sure, November 2nd, we gave a presentation, a much more developed presentation than one I'm going to give right now. And I'm just going to kind of give you guys a little bit of the highlights. And if you'd like to see the whole presentation that we gave to the City Council, you can go online and there David has the actual link, so he can get you to there a little quicker. But if you go through the city's website, you can get to their council study sessions, and then you can watch the whole thing. But I'm going to just do some highlights. So if we have the next slide, please. So I'm going to talk a little bit about background and context, but there's a lot more about that on the council presentation. But because of time, I want to get right into the current conservation efforts. And then recently we did a comprehensive water demand assessment to sort of figure out, we knew what we were doing right now, but how do we really want to focus our resources going forward? And then that kind of led us to a couple of new elements. And then I'll talk about how we took the old and the new, and we cobbled it together into an integrated demand management program. And I think what's new about this, what's different is it's a combination of what a city and a private utility can do together. So it's, when I say integrated, I mean the city and Arizona Water Company coming together. And then I'll also talk a little bit about schedule, staffing, and budget, and some next steps. So next slide, please. So background and context, one more, there we go. So there are really kind of four business imperatives that kind of led us to the point of where we are at today, which is the launching of our demand management program. One is the general land use plan that the city, all cities have to do, and the Casa Grande is in the middle of doing theirs for the 2030 plan. And in this particular plan, they had a really solid water element they put together, and it also included some actual goals for demand reduction. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then the other business imperative was what David was referring to. We put together a joint water resource plan together with the city, and that ultimately led to a water acquisition strategy. And there were about 8 or 9 elements in that, one of which is this demand management program we're going to talk about. And then the third business imperative was what something called a Growing Water Smart Workshop, which some of you may or may not have heard of. But I have to say that this particular item was really a turning point for the city. It was a turning point for us. It's a facilitated workshop that's hosted by the Sonoran Institute and the Babbitt Center for Land and Water Policy. And there are about 7 different cities in Arizona that went to the, I'm going to call it the inaugural Growing Water Smart Workshop this past February. And we really honed in and focused on our water picture as a whole. And one of the things that came out of that was the development of this demand management program. And I really can't say enough about what they did for us and continue to do. We ultimately ended up with a technical assistance grant from them as well. So that was really, I would say, probably the most important reason why we got to where we are today. And then the fourth reason is the regulatory environment. As you know, the Department of Water Resources recently is in the process of promulgating the 4th management plan. And as time goes on, as we have expected, the management plan requirements are getting more stringent. And so that has a lot to do with why we are where we're at today as well. So the next slide, please. So current conservation efforts. So in the course of going to the Growing Water Smart Workshop, we learned a lot about each other. And one was that the city is doing as much for water conservation as Arizona Water Company is. So I just want to highlight some of the things that we're doing. Talked a little bit about the general land use plan, and they have a real strong water element in there, and 4 specific goals: promoting outdoor water conservation, reducing the GPCD by 15%, maximizing the use of effluent, and developing additional water supplies. But they also had a bunch of stuff that was already in their city code and ordinances. Things like water features must use recycled water, maximum 40% of the landscape area can be irrigated turf. They also have a very high volumetric flat rate on the utility the city operates. So it's not an inverted water rate structure, but it's like $4 per thousand, starting with the first 1,000. So it's still a pretty effective rate in terms of managing demand. Next slide, please. These are some of the things that Arizona Water Company has been doing. We also have a conservation-oriented rate structure. It's more of a traditional inverted block rate structure that protects lifeline uses and discourages luxury uses. We have a special events program, and we do community presentations. We have homeowner landscape information that we give out. If our residential customers would like to have an audit, we do audits with them. We have a customer high water use inquiry resolution and notification program, which is sort of attached to the residential audit program. We also do water waste investigations. And of course, we do distribution system, leak detection, and meter repair and replacement. Next slide. So in addition to just sort of figuring out, if you just go back one real quick. There you go. So in addition to sort of figuring out what we already have done, then the other thing we did was embarked upon a comprehensive water demand assessment. And we hired Westwater Research to conduct this water demand assessment. A young woman by the name of Claire Madden, and she did a great job. So let's go to the next slide. And what Claire did was she looked at our 2019 data, and she looked at by connection type, and then they developed benchmarks for how much water an average commercial connection should use or an average industrial connection. They compared that to what people were actually using, and they determined how many accounts were above the benchmark and the volume of water that exceeded the benchmark. So you can see that they found about 2,200 accounts above the benchmark and roughly 2,700 acre feet above the benchmarks. And then the column on the right was designed to kind of give us an idea of where we could put more bang into our buck. So if we go to the next slide, you'll see that these three categories of customers, we have 50 customers and roughly about 350 acre feet of water. If you go to the next slide, you have 2,000 customers, and it's about 0.28 per customer, and about 556 acre feet of savings versus the last slide, which was roughly about, I think, 1,400 or 1,600 acre feet of savings. So we're looking at how do we hone in on the fewest number of customers to get the most amount of savings. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So the conclusions of the findings of the assessment is that our greatest opportunities are industrial customers, our commercial customers, and our outdoor irrigation customers. The industrial customers are a little bit tricky. A lot of their water use actually is indoor. It's used for processing, and it goes to the wastewater treatment plant. And so we have some concerns about, number one, really how inefficient are they? If it's part of their process, they may be using the water actually very efficiently. And we also don't want to impact the operations at the wastewater treatment plant. So we decided that for now, we really need to focus on the outdoor irrigation customers. So if we go to the next slide. Next slide. Hello? Oh, there we go. And so here are the outdoor irrigation customers. We sort of culled that data out, and then we've organized it by customer name. Okay, go ahead to the next slide. And then here we have the number of locations at each of these customers by customer. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hone in on one here. And I think it's Casa Grande High School. If we go to the next slide. So here we've got the Casa Grande High School has 3 locations, but really just 2 high schools and then like an administrative building. And they're using about 246 acre feet, it looks like, in 2019. And if we go to the next slide, I think we kind of explode that out. So here we've got more information about how much each of these uses. And there's two high schools that we're focused on. One is Casa Grande Union High School, and the other is Vista Grande Union High School. And so you can see from their water use. So first of all, one of the things you'll notice about Casa Grande Union High School is that it does not have a commercial irrigate account, whereas Vista Grande does. And you can see that Vista Grande uses about 126 acre feet on the commercial irrigation account and about 17 acre feet for indoors. So we could probably expect to see about that in Casa Grande Union High School, either probably about 15, 16 acre feet indoors. So there's a lot of potential there for us to work with them. So they would become a potential client for us in the program that I'm going to talk about in just a minute. So next slide, please. So then now I'm going to talk about how we integrated these things together. And so this is the Integrated Demand Management Program, and that is the logo for the program, Casa Grande, Save It. Next slide, please. So in the Integrated Demand Management Program, we've got the ordinances, the general land use that come from the city, and then we've got the customer high water use inquiry and resolution notification from Arizona Water Company. Both the city and the Arizona Water Company have conservation-oriented rate structures. Both have leak detection, repair, and meter replacement programs. So that's kind of the old that we're going to be bringing into the new program. And then the other thing we're going to bring in are two new elements. One is called Save It Casa Grande, and the other is called WaterWise Outside. WaterWise Outside is the product of the assessment that we just talked about a minute ago. And then the Save It Casa Grande is a program that's really designed to get at more of the residents as opposed to focusing in on the outdoor irrigate customers that are businesses and that kind of thing. But the Save It program applies to everyone. So I'm going to talk about the Save It program first. So let's go to the next slide. So the Save It Casa Grande program is a conservation campaign. It's a branding program, what our goal is to establish how critical conservation is to Casa Grande. As a part of this program, there'll be monthly conservation tips. We'll advertise any special events that we would be attending where water conservation opportunities would be made available to customers, information, giveaways, that kind of thing. We'd also be advertising our available programs, like, for example, our residential audit program. And then we're going to be delivering these messages through image ads and videos, and we'll be also surveying the attitudes about using water wisely. And then we're going to have a landing page on the Greater Casa Grande Chamber of Commerce. And so that all these social media elements will funnel into the Greater Casa Grande community, Greater Casa Grande Chamber of Commerce page, where people will be able to get more information on water conservation and also be able to share their experiences. We're going to be using Facebook, Instagram, programmatic display. Don't anybody ask me what that is. I have no idea what that is. And then YouTube. So let's go ahead and move on. I'll show you kind of pieces of what this will look like. So here's the logo itself, which I have to tell you, I just love this. And for those of you who are not familiar with it, but I would guess most of you are, the Casa Grande has a much broader campaign that it's doing, that it's getting ready to roll out. And it's, I believe it's called the Love It campaign, but there are these stamps that look just like this. One is Love It, one is Live It, one is Park It, one is Build It. I think I might be missing one in there. But we approached, the mayor and I actually approached the chamber and asked if they would be willing to create this one called Save It. And so this is like the environmental aspect of that same brand. And you can go all over the city. Eventually, we go all over the city, and you'll have a little passport book, and you can get stamps of these things. And so, like, people who come into our office will be able to get a stamp every time they come in with a Save It stamp in their passport. I just love this little brand. I think it's amazing, and I'm very happy that we're able to use it. And I really feel like it's the wrapper that goes around this whole program. Everything will be packaged within it. And it will create that integration that we're looking for with the city. Next slide. Along with this, for those of you who aren't marketing people, along with the logo come things like a slogan and a hashtag. And so the slogan that we're looking at is "Together we can protect Casa Grande's future." So this is the challenge that we're trying to solve. You know, it's this unique challenge and a solution. And that's how we give value to our brand. So next slide. And then the messages will come out in these various formats, these image ads, whether it's in Facebook or in Instagram, any way, YouTube, any way that these people who do this for a living can figure out how to push it out. And they have a lot of electronic or digital engines behind the work that they do, so we can hone in on certain people and send messages, and it's amazing what they can do actually. But those are just a couple examples of what these messages might look like that come out. And this would be like sort of the equivalent of what we used to do, like we put a message on a bill and send it out. We can still do that, but this is to tap throughout the community, not just the person who opens the bill up. Next slide. So then there's the WaterWise Outside program, and this is the program that comes out of the assessment, the comprehensive use assessment that we talked about. And so we're going to be targeting high outdoor water use customers, and we've already pretty much identified them. I kind of gave you a little bit of a glimpse of that. And then for each of those targeted customers, we're going to develop a water profile, and we're going to then, and that water profile is going to basically be like a water budget for that customer, and we're going to help present that to them and show them where they have some potential for efficiency and how much water we think they can save. And we'll hopefully get those people to buy off on participating. You'll note that one of them was the city, so we're pretty sure we can at least get the city to participate. They've got several parks. And then with the partner, we will then develop the actual conservation program, and we will work with them then to implement it, and we will track the program outcomes and the effectiveness of the program. And so that will be the WaterWise Outside program. So that's a new element as well. So the next slide, please. So this is a slide from a presentation that Paul Tice did on the general land use plan. And this shows the existing demands in the green, or the projected demands in green with no conservation, and the projected demands in blue with conservation. Also shows the population growth. That's the line on there. But if Paul is, if we are successful in reaching Paul's goal, which is a 15% reduction in demands, then we could expect to save about 5,000 acre feet of water, 4,500 roughly acre feet of water. And so the next, I'm sorry?
Terry Sue, I wanted to jump in here. For those folks who are not familiar with Paul Tice, he is the City of Casa Grande's planning director.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and they did a great job on their general land use plan. And if you haven't had a chance to look at that, I really recommend that you do. And they're going to be coming up here for election in May, and I just feel they did a great job. And the water element was one of the better ones I've seen in a general land use plan. Next slide, please. So if we were to save this water in terms of today's dollars, that will save us about $1.5 million per year if we had to replace that supply with renewable water supplies. So that's basically what, if I had to go out in the market today and buy 4,566 acre feet of water, that's how much I would pay for one year. Next slide. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about schedule, staffing, and budget. Next slide. So this is my favorite slide actually in this whole set, because it lays it all out. So we have all the ongoing measures that we're going to continue to do, and then we're in the developing the program right now, and we plan to launch it in March of 2021.
Excuse me. Somebody is not muted. We're getting a lot of background noise.
I think it's Steve.
I cannot hear Terry Sue at all for the last 3 minutes.
Oh, well, that's weird. Can you hear me now? Let me try. Mute myself. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there's still background noise.
Can you hear me now, Steve? I don't think he can hear me at all.
Supervisor Miller? Supervisor Miller? Supervisor Miller now shows one of his accounts is muted.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe I can go on. Maybe, Steve, if you can't hear us, you might want to try the chat. Hopefully you can hear us now. All right, so let's see here. Let me get back to the schedule and staffing. So we're in program development right now. We're going to launch the program in March of 2021, and we're going to do that in sort of in timing with the general land use plan. And we'll start the Save It program is the vehicle we're going to use to launch the entire program. We'll start the WaterWise Outside Customer Outreach program in the fourth quarter of 2021. And then you can see the ongoing programs in the middle. They're going on right now. They'll continue to go on. We are planning on hiring a water conservation specialist at the end of this quarter, and I'm actually getting ready to do the recruitment right now. So anybody out there who is interested in becoming the first water conservation person for Arizona Water Company, give me a call. And by the quarter 3 of 2022, that person will probably end up becoming a coordinator, and then we'll hire a second water conservation specialist, and that person will be dedicated to Pinal Valley, which is the Casa Grande and Coolidge area. Next slide, please. So as far as the budget is concerned, we have a budget of about $150,000 through the end of 2022, and that's made up of money from 3 different sources. $10,000 of it is coming from a technical assistance grant that we applied for with the Sonoran Institute. But what I will point out is that water actually came from the Arizona Community Foundation. In the end, they got a special funding source for that. And then $25,000 is coming from Casa Grande, and all of that money, the $10,000 from Sonoran Institute and the $25,000 from Casa Grande, will be used to develop and launch the social media campaign, the Save It program. And the remaining of the budget will come from Arizona Water Company. On the long-term basis, we expect to stabilize the staff and budget by around 2025 and ultimately have a budget of about $330,000 in today's dollars. This would include a full-time water conservation specialist and part of a conservation coordinator. So last slide, please. So these are our next steps. We're going to hire a water conservation specialist. We're going to implement the Save It campaign. We're going to prepare our water profiles for our potential WaterWise outside targets. And then the other thing we're going to do is we're going to propose to DWR an integrated program that leverages this public-private collaboration. And we might call it a public utilities program or something like that, because one of the things I've learned in the last year is how important, if you're a private utility, how important it is to partner with the cities that you serve. It's very different being a city that has your own water utility, because you're going to coordinate with yourself. But we've had to take a different route, and I think that actually creates a much better outcome to do this. But it's a different approach, and so we're going to be putting some, I guess, concept papers together, issue papers together that we'd like Natalie and her staff to consider, and we're hoping that this can be an example of how that might look going forward. And I think that's my last slide. Let's see, is there one more in there? Yep, that's the last slide. So I'll be happy to take any questions that you might have.
Okay. Thank you, Terry Sue. First of all, let me start with Mr. Collins. Steve, if you are still with us, I think you're still logged on. If you have a question for Terry Sue, please use the chat function, since sound seems to be an issue. Mr. Collins, I see you, Steve, so hang in there. Mr. Collins, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. Terry Sue, appreciate the time and effort in the presentation, though.
Thank you.
Steve? Not seeing anything in the chat.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Yes.
Okay. It looks like Command Central here. But anyway, I don't have any questions. I'll get with Terry Sue later. I missed about 4 minutes of the presentation. Thank you. Anyway, and we'll talk to you later. Okay.
Sadly, Steve, it sounds like you're calling from the International Space Station. Between Terry Sue and I, we will get the link to the to the presentation, get that to all the members of the GOAC. So you'll have you'll have access to the full presentation. I have no questions. As I said earlier, I think this is a great start, and hats off to Mayor McFarland and the City Council, Larry Raines, the City Manager, and of course to Fred Schneider and Terry Sue at Arizona Water Company. So kudos all the way around. We'll now move to agenda item 7, which is a management plan update by Natalie Mast. She's got the 5th management plans, the 4th management plans, and all kinds of plans to talk about. Welcome again, Ms. Mast. The floor is yours.
All kinds of plans. Thank you, Chairman Snyder and members of the council. As you know, but for the benefit of the rest of the people on the call, my name is Natalie Mast. I am the Active Management Areas Director responsible for the management plans at APWR. I'm going to provide today just a quick status on the management plans, both the 4th and 5th management plans. If we could go to the next slide, please. So first we'll cover the 4th management plans. Last year we did lay out a timeline to complete the adoptions of the 4th management plans by the end of this year by finalizing the Phoenix, Pinal, and Santa Cruz AMA 4th management plans. We are still on track to meet that timeline. If we can move to the next slide, please. We have completed the adoptions of the Phoenix and the Santa Cruz 4th management plans, and we do intend to complete the adoption of the Pinal AMA 4th management plan by the end of the year. I'll provide a little bit of additional detail on that on the next slide, if we could go to the next slide. We did receive 3 motions for rehearing or review on the Pinal AMA 4th management plan. So the final adoption of that plan has been delayed pending decisions from Director Bushatsky on those motions. There is no additional comment period associated with those motions, and the director can only consider those comments that were brought forth in those motions. The department is working to respond to the motions we received. And as I said earlier, we do intend to complete the adoption of the Pinal AMA 4th management plan by the end of this year in order to meet our enforceability date for those conservation programs, which is January 1st, 2023. Next slide, please. We are also working to develop the 5th management plans. We last year created the management plans work group and intend to have that group kind of run through the beginning of next year. We are going to take the bulk of 2021 to draft, to actually write those 5th management plans with the intent of adopting those plans in 2022 and having those plans become effective on January 1st, 2025. If we could go to the next slide, please. Excuse me. That management plans work group that I just mentioned has been our main kind of vehicle for developing the 5th management plans. It's an ADWR-led stakeholder forum for the development of the 5th management plans. So we've been having a lot of public meetings over the last year and a half and have been gathering stakeholder feedback, having a lot of detailed conversations about what those conservation programs will look like for the 5th management plans. If we could go to the next slide, please. We have posted, developed and posted a 5th management plans concepts page. I know there was a presentation at the last GOAC meeting on this, but it is something I just wanted to call attention back to. This is intended to be a one-stop location for overviews of concepts and ideas discussed in the work group. It's something we've received a lot of positive feedback on, and a page that we're really proud of as a part of our kind of communication and outreach associated with this group. We really hope that people will use this page and use the information on this page to learn more about the topics that we're discussing. And if they haven't made it to previous meetings, this is a really good way for people to kind of get up to speed and to better participate in future meetings. If we could go to the next slide, please. We do have a municipal work group meeting, subgroup meeting coming up next week. So we are looking forward to that. We'll be discussing the development of the GPCD program for the 5th management plans at that meeting. So we're really looking forward to having that meeting, and we are working to get some additional meetings on the board on the calendar. So please watch out for emails announcing those dates. If we could go to the next slide. I'd like to thank you for your time. That's all I have today, but I would gladly take any questions from the council.
There I am. Thank you, Ms. Mast. I appreciate that. Let me start with Vice Chairman Collins. Do you have any questions, sir?
Yes, just a quick one. I understand that Governor Ducey just reactivated the BMP Advisory Committee, and that both the 4th management and 5th management plans, the agricultural components will need to go through that committee. Will that have an impact on completing the 4th management plan adoption by 2020, the end of 2020?
So we there was an executive order extending that BMP advisory, agricultural BMP advisory committee through subsequent management plans. We do not anticipate that that's going to have an impact on the 4th management plans. It's unfortunate that Mr. Riggins is not here today, because I think he probably is more familiar with the details of that committee than I am even. So we do anticipate that that group is going to have a meeting in the near future, but we don't anticipate that it's going to have an impact on the timing of the 4th management plans. Rather, that group is likely going to focus more on the 5th management plans moving forward.
Thank you, Ms. Mast.
As a follow-up to Mr. Collins' question, Ms. Mast, do you know if the membership of the Ag BMP committee will be, advisory committee will be as it is now, or do you foresee new membership being appointed?
Sure. So there are a number of positions that will be open based on people who actually, unfortunately, are no longer with us or are no longer working in water. So there are going to be a number of new appointments that need to be made to that. But the language in the executive order did allow existing members of that committee to be retained.
Very good, very good. I'm aware of the fact that there are a number of folks in the Pinal AMA who are associated with that committee. Most notably, obviously, our council member Scott Riggins, and I believe Brian Hartman from Maricopa Stanfield is also on that in that group. So I'm hopeful of a lot of good, solid Pinal AMA representation. Mr. Miller, if you are still with us and still connected from the International Space Station, do you have any questions for Ms. Mast? Hearing none.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear somebody. Is that you, Steve?
There it is. Okay. I have no questions for Natalie. Thank you for the presentation.
Okay, it's good to hear from you, sir. All right. Do you have anything further for us, Ms. Mast?
No, I don't. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. We appreciate the updates, and we look forward to continued progress, certainly on both the fourth and the fifth management plans. We are now to agenda item 8, which is a call to the council. Mr. Collins, Mr. Miller, anything for the good of the order?
Mr. Chairman, I have no comments at this time.
Mr. Miller?
Nor do I.
Okay. We don't have an agenda item that says next meeting, and I would be stunned if there were any council member with an issue that we thought would necessitate a meeting between now and the end of the calendar year. But given all of the issues that are up in the air vis-a-vis the Pinal AMA, physically available groundwater, the assured water supply, regulations, and so on and so forth, I would assume that calendar year 2021 will be a full year. And here, if there is any interest on the part of council to set up a more regular schedule of meetings of this GOAC, I certainly would invite you to communicate with either myself or Kyle Miller so that we can set something up and put it on everybody's calendar on a more regular basis.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry.
I do have one comment, a protocol comment, if you will entertain it. The agenda that has been sent out, I believe, needs to include the call-in for electronic information to be able to, participate from the general public. I noticed on the emails that was sent out to the council, but I noticed that it's not on the agenda. And for someone who doesn't get the email, it really should be on the agenda as to how to participate in the public meeting going forward.
Okay. At this point, it's an excellent point. Certainly we'll work with Ms. Shepard and Mr. Miller from the department. I'm sorry.
Sorry to interrupt. Would it be okay if I just pointed one thing out with regard to that?
Certainly, Ms. Mast.
Mr. Collins, I just wanted to let you know on our public meetings calendar, the agenda is posted there, but there is also on that calendar item a link to that call-in information and webinar information. So we can certainly add it to the agenda, but just so you know, it is publicly available on ADWR's public meetings calendar.
No, I appreciate that. I just was of the impression that when you do a public agenda, it must include as part of the agenda how you make that virtual meeting happen.
Fair enough. It's certainly something that we can correct.
And perhaps we can emphasize in the webinar logistics the intent of the chat function. I know that staff monitors that, and so if there's somebody that has something to share, they are diligent in reminding the chair that there is a public comment, so we will pay more attention to that, I believe, in the future. Thank you, Mr. Collins. We'll now go to the public, call to the public. And if there is a member of the public that would like to share comments with the council, now is your chance. Exercise the either the chat function or unmute yourself and identify yourself, and we will entertain your comment. And I see nothing active on the chat. I hear no one on the audio. Ms. Shepherd, do you have any sign of activity from the public?
I'm not seeing anything in the chat box.
Okay. Thank you very much. I want to thank everybody, certainly council members. I want to thank members of the public and certainly the DWR staff who have been through all together as the Chinese say, an interesting calendar year of 2020. I thank you for your participation and your investment of time and energy and perceptions on all things water having to do with not only the state of Arizona, but certainly the Pinal Active Management Area. On behalf of the council, I wish everybody the best of the holidays and the safest and healthiest of holidays, certainly stretching into calendar year 2021. And in as much as we are now reached agenda item 10, which is adjournment, and there being no further business before the council, I will declare the meeting adjourned. Happy holidays, everybody. Stay safe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We look forward to the next meeting.
Okay. Be well, everybody.